What's up, Bulldogs? Alright, I don't really want to make a video on this, but I'm doing it and I'm going to tell you why, because I think there's an important lesson in this. But I'm going to be talking about today why the whole storming the Capitol thing, what my take is on it, what my thoughts are on it, and really the lesson that can be learned from everything that's been going on, and sort of a very stoic mindset to have, how you can navigate this, how you can stop becoming so emotionally upset about all of these things that you can't control, and how you can actually become more successful in your life. If you guys are just joining me for the first time, I'm John from Bulldog Mindset.com. On this channel, I teach you how to be a man, teach you how to build financial independence, how to get the physique that you want, how to get the girls you want, and how to go from the victim mindset to the Bulldog mindset. If that sounds like something that you're even remotely interested in, make sure you click the subscribe button. If there is a bell, I don't know, someone was saying there's no more bell notifications, click the bell here to make sure you don't miss the videos, because YouTube does tend to hide my videos. You know, can't blame them. And up in the cards here, there is a Bulldog quiz. If you haven't taken that quiz, figure out what your Bulldog score is. It's going to help you in your life. I guarantee it, to know where you're at right now. And if you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate a like. It just takes you a second, just if you can get into the habit of it, if you've been watching these videos, because it really does make a difference, especially when YouTube's hiding a lot of my videos. All right, so let's get into the details here. I got to be careful what I say on here so the video doesn't get banned and they don't get blacklisted or whatever penalties that they give you on YouTube. But as you probably know, for me, yesterday or the day before, the Capitol was raided, right? A bunch of people broke into the Capitol. And the interesting thing about this is, now my take on this, all right, I'm just going to tell you ahead of time, it is going to upset people on both sides, right? I hate to say both sides, because you shouldn't have a side. You should just be a logical, rational human being who doesn't join anyone's side or doesn't do anything like that. Instead, just thinks about things for themselves. All right. This is the problem that we have today. And I'm going to tell you how to solve this, how to actually get above this. But first, let me just, you're here, you want to hear my take. I'll give you my take. All right. So first of all, I don't know who to offend first, but let's just start with talking about the people who invaded the Capitol. Okay, lady got shot. All right, I'm gonna try to put this in the most empathetic way. If you are inside of the US Capitol, okay, while lawmakers are in session, even when they're not in session, but let's say while it's in session, okay, while the government is essentially in that building, I mean, that is what is happening in there. If you are inside there illegally, you should expect to be shot on sight. That's just common sense. You should expect to be shot on sight, regardless of who else is in there, regardless of what's happening. If you're in the U.S. Capitol building, the most, you could argue, most powerful country in the world's government building, okay, illegally, probably should be the most secure place on the planet, to be honest with you. It really should be, right? That's the most critical for our democratic infrastructure, right? Republic, whatever you want to call it. Okay, regardless of if you agree with it or not, I'm not talking politics here, okay? And this is kind of the point of the video, all right? I have some political views. I'm a libertarian. But my point is this. Just at a very basic level, if you are on government property illegally in a very secure location, you should be, I would expect to get shot inside. I would think as soon as I touched the building, if I was in 5 feet, like violating a perimeter of the U.S. Capitol, I would expect to be shot on sight. I would expect snipers to be taking people out. That's what I would expect. Okay, so if you do that and you get met with lethal force, okay, so that's my first and sort of thing with that, is that they should have been defending. I can't even believe that the Capitol building was not defended with lethal force. As soon as people got within striking distance, where its first window broke, that should have been, in my opinion, people should have been mowed down. All right, that's, again, I'm not saying that I don't agree with some of the grievances of those people. Of course, I am more aligned with some of those, of that mindset. Not all of it. It's a little bizarre, but anyway. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then the second thing I would say about this is this. It's like, if you're going to invade the most powerful country in the world's capital, okay, the government building, you better be ready for war. Like, you better, if you're actually going to do that, you should have weapons and guns and be ready to be violent and to take control of that government. If you're actually going to stage a coup, do it the correct way. Like, don't go in there and take selfies. Okay, and again, don't misinterpret this. I'm not supporting staging a coup, okay? But I am saying if you are going to do a revolution, okay, and if you invade the Capitol building, that's kind of like, you're kind of cross. It's almost like, I'm trying to think of a non-vulgar way to put this, but it's like, it's like rounding third base, okay, with a girl. It's like, yeah, you're kind of going, if you just a tip means, yeah, you're kind of gone you're going all the way at that point. You see what I'm saying? So like, if you're gonna do that, I was surprised. Like, it just seems like pretty cowardice to me to not just, I mean, if you're going to do a revolution, do a revolution. That's what I'm going to say about that. I could say a lot more. I'll say a lot more maybe in my private Bulldog Mindset membership where I'm not censored at all, but I've got some stronger opinions on it, but you can kind of guess what it is. If you haven't joined all the way, I'm clicking down below, $7 for the first month, Bulldog Mindset membership. My hair is just crazy. It's just awesome. But anyway, check it out if you haven't already. I've got more unfiltered opinions on a lot of stuff, not just opinions, but instruction on sexual stuff that I wouldn't talk about on YouTube, on being more dominant as a man, on some of the political things and things that just will not work on YouTube so much. Okay, so with that said, yeah, so that's kind of my take on it, right? It's okay. Let me put it this way: when governments are tyrannical, bloody revolutions may be necessary. So I'm not totally against those things. All right, it might seem like I would be, but I'm not. Okay. But you do need a couple of things in order for that. You do need evidence, and you do need to have the willingness to actually commit violence, to actually take it to where it's going. You see what I'm saying? So I think that if you kind of have one shot at this, right? And so if you're going to do something like that, you really got to do it. You can't be like pussyfooting it. You can't dipping your toes in the water. That's what I'm saying about it, right? So that's my grievances with both sides and what happened in the whole thing. Is it just, those are my thoughts on it. Okay, take it for what you don't even have to agree with me. And I'm just, from a logical standpoint, it just makes sense to me that, hey, Capitol building for the most powerful country in the world should be secured with lethal force. Okay, and like anyone complaining about whatever happened, if you step foot illegally into the Capitol building, you should expect to be shot on sight. That's just, I don't know. That's common sense to me. That doesn't seem like any kind of extreme viewpoint. Okay. And then the second one being that if you're going to actually like do something that would be considered an insurrection or a revolution, like invading your country's Capitol building, you can't just go in there and take selfies. You got to be ready to actually do what it looks like you're doing, right? Like, if you're not willing to have the balls to actually do it, then don't even show up. Don't even step foot in there. Don't trespass. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying to do it. And I don't think we're at the point yet. There is a point where I would say that historically tyranny has to be stopped. Now, and the funny thing about this is and I said this on Instagram again, this is not meant to be a political message, right? Again, and I'm going to get to in this video, like I said, about how you can benefit from this situation. So I know that this sounds like a political message at this point. It's not, because you're interpreting what you think that I think, but you're wrong. Okay. But what I'm saying about this is that, like I said on Instagram, I said, some people say democracy was destroyed today because people stormed the Capitol building. Other people say people stormed the Capitol building because democracy was destroyed. Now, an interesting thing just to think about this. If you think that democracy was destroyed, the idea of storming the Capitol building is not so crazy. You see what I'm saying? Even an armed insurrection, a real bloody revolution, is not so crazy. If you really think that, that fraud happened, that an election was illegitimate, if you really think those things, then those actions seem pretty rational. Okay, it makes sense. Now, on the other side, if you think opposite things, if you think that this election, that the election was legitimate, and that now there's people that don't like it, and now they stormed the Capitol building, right? And and did this, then they have destroyed democracy. Then they are responsible. Like, so whichever your perspective is, like, it's going to seem, your position is going to seem completely justified based on your interpretation of previous events. And if you look at this last year and what's happened with the thing that's in the air, whatever, that people are getting sick. All right, I'm not going to say the names of that, and everything that's happened, and protests and BLM and all these things. If you look at what's happened, clearly people have been herded like sheep into two different corrals. One corral believing one set of narratives, which compound upon each other, which justify every action that makes it logical and rationally sane to do this action or to support this thing. And then another corral that is the exact opposite. They're built on some premises, right, that were initially set. And one interesting thing about this, I think, also, is that, see, ideologies, and I didn't know I was going to go this direction, but I still have the most important thing to say. This is going to be a longer video, but ideologies normally are internal and on Facebook and Twitter. And so you're not really, like, when you're walking down the street, no one really sees your ideology. Like, they don't see which corral you're in, okay, for the most part. Except, if you wanted to make it so that it was really clear what team you're playing on, how would you do that? Well, introduce face masks. Kind of interesting, just some things to ponder. Again, I'm not trying to lead you in a direction. See, you're so used to being led in a direction, by a shepherd, that you're instantly possibly assuming that I'm not leading you in a direction. I'm just leading you in, if any direction, of thinking for yourself. And it's just interesting. I just thought it was interesting. And again, it doesn't play out perfectly, but it's interesting that, like, the wearing or not wearing a face mask now can give you a visual indication of a person's ideology. That's really interesting. I just find that really, really interesting. And so I don't know what's going on. A lot of people have asked me, is there some kind of really dark conspiracy? Is it like someone sent me a poster of the trillionaires and then the billionaires, and then I'll give it 50-50. I don't know. Maybe that's what's happening. But something certainly appears to be happening. Now, is it an actually orchestrated thing by some dark triad? What I mean is, like, is it some cabal? Or is it some kind of organic social evolution, that this is how we've evolved, and these variables in this equation, and technology has accelerated this thing, and really, like, AIs that drive social media are actually the ones controlling the world without anyone at the helm? I don't know exactly. I don't know. It doesn't matter. And that's where I'm going to get to my final point, which is really the point of this video. If you've watched this long, congratulations. Maybe you are a free thinker, because most people have just shut it off, and, like, something I've said pissed them off, and they've gotten triggered or whatever. So the main thing, though, you're gonna get the real thing here, is which I was thinking, which is that you should really treat what's going on in the news and in media and everything in the world today the same as you would treat the weather. Okay? Because you have just as much control over all of these events as you do the weather. Okay? You have just as much control over who gets elected president, and whether it's a fraud, or whether that it gets overturned, or whether people storm capitals, or whether people protest Black Lives Matter, or whether people burn down buildings, or whatever happens. Okay? You have just as much control over that stuff as you do the weather, which is zero. But the weather is useful. It's useful to know the weather for one purpose: to know whether you need to bring an umbrella today. And that's what you should be looking at all this stuff. When you see all this stuff happening, and you see this media, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't help you at all to get upset about it. Now, I could get upset about it. Of course I can. And have I in the past? For sure. It's pretty hard to resist the pull, the lure of this. But my point is, as a man, as a stoic, right? Which I would aspire for you all to be stoics. By the way, if you haven't joined the Bulldog Mindset membership, now's a good time for me to pitch it again and tell you, you should join us, join a community of like-minded stoic men and a couple of women. And as a stoic, you should be looking at what you can control and influence in life. And here's the advantage in it. Here's the thing, the opportunity that you guys have, which is this, is that everyone else is distracted. They're like doing bull crap, right? I had posted something else. I'll put this on my Instagram, which I think you guys might find pretty relevant and useful to you, which is this. I'd said the same thing to say. I said, I don't know who needs to hear this. Actually, I do. If you are posting something political and you aren't making money doing it, you are a sheep. You are working for someone else for free. This is true. Okay. And that's, again, you can make all kinds of arguments, and I've heard them all. John, what if no one does anything? What if we just let these things happen? Do you really think that your input, your action, which when I say your action meaning posting some crap on Instagram, getting upset, angrily talking to other people about it, arguing with your friends, do you think that is actually going to change anything? That somehow you're now going to change the weather because you're angry and talking about the weather and telling people about how it should not be raining and it should be warmer than it is? Right? I mean, if you're going to make a weather making machine that changes the weather, that's fine. That's different. But for most of you, for the most part, for most of us, it would be much more pragmatic and better to just focus on what you can do, what you can control, your own life, going to the gym, getting jacked, okay? Starting your business, growing that, right? Now, again, people like me, we're kind of in between, right? Because I do make some money. Part of my business is talking about some of the current events and things like that. But I would rather take those current events, like I tried to do in this video, and focus it on bringing people in to the Bulldog mindset, to stop having the victim mindset. Because guess what? This is a newsflash for you. Because a lot of you guys, you think you're above the victim mindset. You're not. You kind of are. Like in all the rest of the areas of your life, you're like, I take responsibility for my life. I am not blaming other people for it. I don't have this social justice warrior mentality of victim mindset, and I don't care about privilege and all these things. Okay. And that's great. All right. That's awesome. But guess what? If you're watching the news and you're allowing it to upset you, you have the victim mindset because you're being victimized by it. It's harming you. It's emotionally harming you. So how are you not a victim? You're allowing someone to get to you. You're allowing the world and what it is to harm you. That means that you do still have a piece of the victim mindset. Now, I say this with full admittance that there's still some of that in me, right? I'm still, to some degree, I have to turn it off. I have to reframe things. I have to run the same dialogue that I'm telling you to myself and say, look, John, what are you doing, man? Are you actually getting upset about what people are doing? Right? Are you actually putting expectations on the world? Are you expecting the weather to be something and it's not, and now it harms you in some way? That's a victim mindset. It is. So what's the best advice I can give you from all this? Okay. I'll give you two things. One, rationally think about these things. Understand, and this is really important. I'll take this from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of the best books, by the way. Brandon Carter, my good friend, had made this. He just did a video and he said this is #1 book, and I agree. What Dale Carnegie said in that book, and what taught me how to change my viewpoint, is he said, and I'm paraphrasing, regarding any person, if you had the genetics they had, if you had the life experience they had, the family, the friends, the social environment, if you had all of those things, the intelligence that they had, right, and those experiences and their genetics, you would do exactly what they would do and you would think exactly what they think. It's a hard pill to swallow at first, right? Because what that means is that you can't really blame anyone for anything, right? Your greatest enemy, it's if you were in their same environment, if you had their same environmental conditions, right? We talk about nature and nurture. If you had their nature and their nurture, you would do exactly what they did. You would think exactly what they did. You would make the same choices. That's really important. So when you look at like this person's evil or bad, or they're just doing what they know how to do. Now, it's not a way to like let yourself off the hook or to excuse, but it's to understand that people in general are NPCs. They're doing whatever they're doing. They're running their programs. And to some degree, you're running your program. Now you have a choice, and maybe my program interacting with your program is now opening your mind to the point where you can stop wasting your energy and effort on judging people and being upset. Like, you don't have to agree with things. You should use your mind, but at the same time, just recognize no one is your enemy, right? Like, you should be looking at people in terms of love. You should be loving people, not hating them, regardless of what. It doesn't matter. There's because you would be that exact same person if you had those circumstances. You would be that would be you, right? So that's number one to take away from this. And the second one is this: focus on what you can control in life. Focus on, Stephen Covey said it back in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talked about your sphere of influence, right? What is your sphere of influence? Focus on your sphere of influence. Don't worry about all the stuff that you can't control. Don't have expectations on those things and you won't get upset. Your emotional well-being, your energy is important. Don't give it away for so easily. Don't get upset so easily. I know it's easy to say that, but if you understand that that's the victim mindset, and you understand that you are allowing something that you can't control to determine your internal state, that's the opposite of the stoic mindset. The whole point of stoicism is to make a disconnect between what happens outside of here that's outside of your control and what happens in here and how you feel, so that what happens, like fate, does not affect you, so that you're disconnected from that, so that no matter what, it makes you invincible in the sense that no matter what happens, no matter what kind of crazy stuff is going on in the world or your environment, your strength, your peace, your tranquility comes from internal, right? And so you can stay in this cycle of getting upset and irate and taking sides and being on and watching the news and being upset about that. You can do it. It's fine. And maybe you enjoy it and it's your entertainment. You can go ahead and do that. But just realize you're never going to advance in your stoic philosophy in becoming more buffered and invincible from the world and fate until you give that up. Until you say, I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to ignore what I can't control, focus on what I can control. I'm going to love people because I would be them if I were in their circumstance with their upbringing and mindset and DNA. And I'm just going to do the best that I can.